Good morning. If y'all didn't realize that I'm late, I think you did. If anybody's here, I appreciate your patience. Morning. The last of the feral kittens was taken to the vet today. Hot dog. Get that little thing, whatever. Don't know whether it's a boy or a girl. Either way, it won't be generating or having any children, any kittens. Thank the Lord. It's if you notice the title today, well, it's a little different. Instead of Revelation. Morning. See, the thing is, some things were said, and some people were confused, and Armenians, naturally. Tell you what, BB Book, him 237. Afternoon, brother. From across the pond, as they say. Again, I'm sorry I'm late, but had to get that little baby to the vet. Because doesn't need to be any more kittens running around. And Lord, kitten having kittens, that could happen. Confused about what? Well, confused about the meaning of Jeremiah 19:5. That's what. My goodness gracious. Yes, that's the conditionalist's new favorite text. It used to be. Now, this was told me, and I'm going to tell you who told me, and I'm going to tell you the whole story. When I was under dealings with the conditionalists for being an absoluter and believing in the predestination of all things, the man they called, I say they, even though I was a member of that church, I say they because I was not there at the meeting that called him. and I would have had to have objected if I was there. And anyway, he was, I don't know whether he was even pastor then of the church, but they were getting ready to call him. Morning. His name was Marvin Wesley Smith, and he was known as the Indian preacher, even though he didn't have a drop of Indian blood in him, according to his own confession. He just was dark-skinned and dark-haired, black-haired. He was an old man when I knew him, in his 70s, and he still had black hair. But according to him, he wasn't any Indian. But Marvin Smith. And when I said, when he found out I'd been to an Absoluter meeting, the one I was talking about, my first Absoluter meeting in October of 1976, he says, and he found out Jim Poole was there. He said, I met Jim Poole at the Atlanta airport one time. You know, Elder Poole used to pastor a conditional church in Atlanta. And I said, oh, you did? He said, yes. And I quoted him the text that no absoluter could get around over or beyond. What's that? Well, God is not the author of confusion. He said he just turned around and walked away from me. Well, about a month later, I related that to Elder Poole. After we'd gotten quite congenial through snail mail, which is what we had back then. And he said, well, there's only one problem with that, brother. I said, what's that? He said, I've never met the man at the Atlanta airport or anywhere else. Well, now their favorite text is not the text that will stop the mouth of all absoluters everywhere, because they've done seen that we know what language means, and that's not what the text says. Now they're trying to use Jeremiah 19:5, and they're confusing people on it. So I want to deal with Jeremiah 19 in context. But before we do, let us sing hymn 237 in the BB book. O'er mercy's unfathomed abyss, the vessels of mercy shall rove, o'erwhelmed with ineffable bliss, and oceans of permanent love. When ages on ages are gone, fresh glories shall rise to the view, and rolling eternally on, forever their bliss shall renew. No galley with oars shall be there, to pass by the strength of free will. For those who to Sinai adhere, its precepts are bound to fulfill. But we, for the city of God, from Sinai were glad to retire, and fled in the Lamb and his blood all things, and find in the Lamb and his blood all things that the law can require. The remnant in Jesus is blessed, whom God from eternity chose, shall enter the haven of rest, though earth, hell, and sin may oppose. Then, oh, how delightful the song, when all in the chorus shall join, the weaklings as well as the strong, with shoutings and triumphs divine. Our mercy's unfathomably abyss. Can we start that over? Mercy sakes. I can't even read. O'er mercy's unfathomed abyss, the vessels of mercy shall rove, o'erwhelmed with ineffable bliss, and oceans of permanent love. When ages on ages are gone, fresh glory shall rise to the view, and rolling eternally on, forever their bliss shall renew. No galley with oars shall shall be there to pass by the strength of free will. For those who to Sinai adhere, its precepts are bound to fulfill. But we for the city of God from Sinai were glad to retire, and find in the Lamb and His blood all things that the law can require. The remnant in Jesus that's blessed, whom God from eternity chose, shall enter the haven of rest, though earth, hell, and sin may oppose. Then, oh, how delightful the song, when all in the chorus shall join, the weaklings as well as the strong, with shoutings and triumphs divine. Join and divine to rhyme. Do you think they might have pronounced it jine sometimes, maybe? I don't know, maybe. If you want to have a good time, join the cavalry. That's the old song from the War Between the States, isn't it? Well, let's get started here. Still left that little black Bible next in my bag. Oh, we're in Jeremiah. Let me get over here. Goodness gracious sakes alive. Oh. Can I satisfy my curiosity for just a moment, brethren? I guess I should say, may I? Matthew's Bible, 1537. Black letter. Hard to read sometimes. But it's the last of the Tyndale tradition. I mean, the actual Tyndale tradition. Somebody might say, well, the King James is the last of the Tyndale tradition. I guess technically it is. But there are no verses marked, just chapters. Wow. All right, maybe we shall Maybe we shall come back to that. You know, I'm thinking about using that next year only. I don't know. I think I want an Apostolic Study Bible. No. I got that. I think I want the Apostolic Bible Polyglot. But thus saith the Lord, go and get a potter's earthen bottle, and take of the ancients of the people and of the ancients of the priests, and go forth into the valley of the son of Hinnom, which is by the entry of the east gate, and proclaim there the words that I shall tell thee. All right, thus saith the Lord unto Jeremiah the prophet. And Jeremiah's got it now. You know, if you look at the book of Jeremiah, he talks about the word of the Lord coming to him, probably as much or more than any other prophet, using that language. Now the Lord just talking to him said, go get you a bottle. Get a potter's earthen bottle, and take of the ancients of the people and of the ancients of the priests, and go forth. Take this bottle and take these people and go forth into the valley of the son of Hinnom, which is over by the east gate, according to the marginal notes in the 1611 King James, the sun gate, and proclaim there the words that I shall tell thee. Now, let me ask you a question right before we get started here, kind of based on what we was talking about yesterday. Did Jeremiah have a choice in the matter? Could Jeremiah have said, no, Lord, I don't think I want to do that. And besides, you haven't told me why you wanted me to get a bottle. Why do you want me to go get a potter's earthen bottle and get all these old folks out here? See, he wants the elders, both of the people and of the priest, and get out to this valley of the son of Hinnom. Now, you got to give me more information before I go and do all that. That's just not uncalled for. No, Jeremiah didn't do that, did he? He could no more do that than he could create a moon. He had to do what the Lord told him. He had no free will in the matter. See, we're going to get down there to the point in the 5th verse, where the enemies of predestination want to say, no, Israel used their free will here. This evil was not predestinated. We'll see about that. Well, you old absoluters, all you want to do is rejoice that the Lord's, you think the Lord is doing all this evil among people. No, that's not it at all. We want to rejoice that our God is the sovereign ruler of the universe and has and will do all things well. All things. Why else could Paul state, in everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. People don't think about the language of Scripture. All they want to do is quote their favorite little verse, isn't it? John 3:16, 2 Peter 1. 2 Peter 1, yeah, add to your faith, virtue, etc., etc. Man, the conditional primitive Baptists love that text because they think that means you can do it. You have to do it, and therefore you can do it. Oh, my goodness gracious. It's amazing how the flesh still wants something to do, even in those whom we believe are born again, including ourselves. We'd be just exactly like them if it was not for the restraining grace of God. We would be just exactly like them, going about to establish a righteousness that's nowhere near good enough to do anything in the sight of God. Now, do you believe that? Do you? Or do you want to go about and establish your righteousness? Do you want to go about and do good so that the Lord will look upon you with favor? I'm going to say this, brethren. If you think that the Lord looking on you with favor is dependent upon what you do, you ain't doing enough. You better get to doing more. And proclaim there the words I should tell thee. You know, even old Balaam, remember us looking at Balaam a few weeks ago? He said, even though he was a hireling to the enemies of God, he said, you know, I can't go beyond the word that the Lord gives me. And Balak, after the first time he called forth the blessing down upon Israel, Balak says, what in the world are you doing, boy? I called you out here to curse this people, and here you are blessing them. And he said, don't you remember what I told you? I can't do anything, but I can't go beyond the word of the Lord. Well, sure you could have, Balaam. You could have exercised your free will and said anything you wanted to. It'd been all right if Balaam had a free will, wouldn't it? Balaam knew better. Jeremiah's going to give him the word too, and say, hear ye the word of the Lord, O King of Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel. Now he leaves no doubt who's talking. He leaves no doubt. I'm the Lord of hosts. I'm the God of Israel. And I'm the one that's speaking right now. So hear me, ye kings of Judah, you inhabitants of Jerusalem. Listen good. Oh, you know, the conditionalists jump on verse 5, but they don't want verse 3, do they? Behold. Remember what I told you about behold. Pay particular attention. You're beholding with your ears. Well, that's stupid. You behold something with your eyes. Well, yeah, normally speaking, but it's saying, it's doing this for emphasis. It's doing this to say, you know, pay attention. Don't just glance. Don't just give a cursory hearing. You know, Jesus talked about those, and Isaiah did too. Hearing they hear not, and seeing they see not. Hearing they hear, but they don't understand. Seeing they see, but they really don't perceive. How many times you been in a store and you heard people talking in a foreign language? You hear, but you don't understand if you don't know their language. Where was I? Walmart the other day? Haitian speaking French. Well, their version of French. I could hear them. I didn't understand the word they said. A couple of months ago, there was some Hispanic folks in back of me at Walmart. I understood some of what they said. Didn't understand it all, not by a long shot, but I understood some. But I heard both times. I heard both times. It didn't mean anything to me. Because I couldn't understand it. Behold, I. Now, I is not Jeremiah. I is the King, the Lord, the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel. Speaking to Judah, speaking to Jerusalem, behold, I will bring evil upon this place. The which whosoever heareth, his ears shall tingle. Oh, see, that's not evil, that's judgment. Ask them people that's getting ready to go through it how evil it is to them. You get a rampaging army of foreign heathens come forth to take over your land, enslave your children, take your wives from you, kill your young men, your warriors, plunder anything they can get their hands on. And you try to tell me that's not evil? What did Joseph tell his brethren about them selling him into slavery? Taking him, throwing him down in that pit. Then decided to make a little money on him instead of killing him. That's their free will did that, didn't they? Yeah, that was their free will that did that. Bless their hearts, that was their free will that did that. They decided, well, we could use the money. No, it wasn't. God had purposed it from the foundation of the world to save much people alive. And they could no more not sell Joseph to the Midianites. And they could have not dipped his coat in the blood of the... Can't remember what, a sheep or a goat. The kid, anyway. No more they could keep from going down to Egypt when the famine struck sore in the land. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. You want to know how God views it? Good. I'll bring evil on this place. I will. Is there any doubt it's going to happen? The which whosoever heareth, his ears shall tingle. Man, oh man, that's bad. Anybody that even hears about it, their ears are going to tingle. Because they have forsaken me and have estranged this place and have burnt incense in it unto other gods. He's telling them why he's going to bring this evil on them. They've forsaken me. You go back and look at the prophets over and over. We find the same thing. Go back even into the Judges, Kings and Chronicles, and see how many times Israel and Judah forsook the Lord. forsaken me, and have estranged this place. They have estranged this place. That's kind of weird language, isn't it? I think I know what it means. Made it a strange place. New English Bible says they treated it as if it wasn't mine. Of course, now that's pretty loose translation. That's pretty loose translation. Let's see what the New King James says. Okay, I was in the right place. They have made this an alien place. I like that. It made it an alien place. And have burned incense in it unto other gods. Burning incense was a particular form of worship, wasn't it? It was incense burned in the tabernacle and in the temple, part of the service. Was the incense. Indeed. Had some of them that made up their own incense as apart from the recipe that the Lord gave for it. What happened to them? Offered strange fire. They burned incense in it unto other gods. Made no pretense of worshiping the God of heaven and earth. No pretense at all. This is to other gods. This Lord of hosts, this God of Israel, it is interesting. Excuse me. He here calls himself the God of Israel after the Israel and Judah had separated. And he's talking to Judah. And you have burned incense, and you made this a strange place. You made this an alien place. You've taken it out of my hands, as it were. It's no longer consecrated. And has burned incense in it unto other gods, whom neither they... Notice this now. I will bring evil upon this place, the which whosoever heareth his ear shall tingle, because they have forsaken me, and have estranged this place, and they have burned incense unto other gods, whom neither they nor their fathers have known. That's very interesting, isn't it? Which neither they nor their fathers have known. If they're burning incense to it, you'd think they'd know it. Lord, you mean these people weren't just ignorantly worshiping the true and living God? They weren't just ignorantly worshiping you? I've heard conditionalists talk about things like that and say that these idol worshippers are just ignorantly worshiping the true and living God if they're sincere. Of course, they've got to do it because they believe the majority of the human race is going to be in heaven. And I'm just foolish enough to say I have no idea whether we're in the majority or the minority, but I know that Scripture tells me that few there be that find the narrow way, and few can enter in at the straight gate, and a multitude that no man can number can be few in comparison with another multitude. Oh, so, pardon my yawns. Goodness gracious, I didn't think I was sleepy. Which neither they nor their fathers have known, nor the kings of Judah. Man, we got some new gods here. Well, I know who I'm worshiping. Do you? Sounds like the offerings of Cain, similar to the offerings of Cain and Abel. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Listen and think. Don't let this go in one ear and out the other. These are important issues. Because the question is, do you stand with the predestinarians or stand with the Arminians? Now, remember when Jesus met the woman at the well? What did he say? You worship you know not what. We Jews know what we worship. What am I getting at there? If you're not worshiping the true and the living God, it doesn't matter what you worship. You know, like old Joshua said, choose you this day whom you serve. God on the other side of the flood, or God on this side, or the gods of the Canaanites. Doesn't matter. Pick you one. One's just as good as another. Once you go astray, doesn't matter. You're fine. Take one. Pass it around. Oh, brother. Ever hear anybody say, well, we just all working to get to the same place? Doesn't matter. We all striving for the same thing. Well, yes. Anyone, listen to me now, anyone outside the election of grace is striving to get to the same place. And it ain't where they think they're going, but they're going to get there sure as certain as I'm here looking at this camera talking to you. Every one of them. Because they don't know what they're worshiping. if I'm not badly mistaken, we can say they are worshiping Satan, or they're worshiping a demonic spirit. They're worshiping the devil. Well, you said a devil. Don't you believe in the devil? Of course I believe in the devil. Satan. I believe in demonic spirits that are devils as well. Devil, like Christ, is not a proper name. Think about that. And have filled this place with the blood of innocents. Listen now. They have built also the high places of Baal to burn their sons with fire for burnt offerings unto Baal. It's the blood of innocence that he's talking about. They were sacrificing their children to Baal. You know what Baal means, right? Lord. They were worshiping the Lord, Baal. How? By going up in these high places. I'm reminded of a couple of things there. I talked yesterday about Elijah and the prophets of Baal. Where'd they go? Up on the mount. High place. A very high place. Higher than these high places. Because these high places can be built by men. Might be a plane out there and then put a hill on it. And a ziggurat. Or a pyramid. Or something for one to ascend. Another place talks about groves. Nature worship? Maybe. But here, it is people coming to and from the earth from and to the unseen realm of the spirit. They built high places unto Baal and caused their sons to burn their sons with fire for burnt offerings unto Baal. Now you talk about somebody that was a believer. They were believers. Could you do it? That infant son of yours, think back when it was laying in your arms or laying at its mother's breast. Could you take it and sacrifice it as a burnt offering unto Baal? I'm going to tell you what, you could, if you were given over to the same spirit that these were. If the Adamic flesh had its way, I guarantee you would. You'd be just like them. And then we come to the part where it's rough. They think for us. Which I commanded not, neither spake it, neither came it into my mind. Which I neither commanded not, nor spake it, nor did it come into my mind. Now, y'all got the context of this? It's important. Judah had no command from God to sacrifice their children unto Baal. He didn't speak it. Didn't have the word of a prophet that they should sacrifice their sons as burnt offerings unto Baal. Didn't come into his mind to command them to do that. See, that's what it's all about. Doesn't mean he didn't know about their transgression. Doesn't mean he didn't know about what they were doing. Didn't mean he was ignorant. That's what they want us to believe. But it's not true. Didn't come into his mind to command them to sacrifice their children. Context is everything. Yes, brother. The Bible needs to be read in context. Let's take a verse here and there. Man, let's prove anything. We'll prove the earth's round. We'll prove the earth's flat. We'll prove it's a square. We'll prove it's a circle. You know, we can take anything out of context, and anything, regardless of its context. It was said when I was a young man, kid, well, you can prove anything from the Bible. Well, sure you can. But you can't prove anything from the Bible in context, can you? The context is God's command of them to do these things. And they had no command from God to do them. They had no word of the prophet that said, get you up and build you some high places. Indeed, it's just the opposite. God had commanded, God had told them in the past, tear down them high places. They went out and built them up. See, they're exercising their free will. No, they're not. They're doing exactly what God wanted them to do. Because he needed to send evil on them. You mean to tell me God predestinated the death of all them children? Yes, I do. Oh, I can't believe God would do such a thing. Well, I don't care whether you can believe it or not. Didn't ask you to believe it. But here again, you have to look at this in this light. You're thinking in your mind, I wouldn't do anything like that. And remember what God said about the children of Israel when he upbraided them and said, y'all thought I was altogether such a one as yourself. That's tough. Who are you going to compare God to? His mind is so much greater than ours. His thoughts are so much above ours. His ways are so much above ours. Tell me the end. Huh? Tell me the end. You can't tell me the end? Well, tell me the beginning. I believe somewhere, if you go over there in the book of Isaiah, he's upbraiding the idols and says, they can't tell you what's going to come to pass. They can't even tell you what went on before. Because they're ignorant. And you know, mankind in Adam is just as ignorant as the idols that he creates in his mind. Woo, you're tough. Yes, I am. Mankind can't declare the end from the beginning. He can't declare the end or the beginning. He declares the end going to come through climate change. He's undeclared the beginning was a big bang. It just happened out there. Matter sprung up out of almost nothing, but it came from something. But we don't know what the something is, and and then man came along. He come out of this primordial ooze. You ever hear that expression? That's what was taught when I was in school. There was a primordial ooze, kind of like a swamp, and all these little tadpoles and all these little creatures that were in there. One of them just decided to come up on land. And lo and behold, because he did, he developed lungs, got rid of the gills. Now that takes faith to believe. Rather than saying that God didn't know about these particular sins, the events he's talking about, therefore, God couldn't have predestinated them. Was God aware, or was he unaware? Did God know, or didn't he? If it didn't come into his mind, if that meaning is that the fact that they were doing this stuff didn't come into his mind until after it happened, then you have to believe in a God that's not all-knowing. Think about that. God learned something by watching his creation. And I'll call baloney on that right now. Yes, I will. Can't have that. Not of the God that said, "Who's a God beside me?" Using the text I used earlier. Declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things not yet done, saying, "My counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure." He is in one mind, and who can turn him? Hey, quote that to one who comes up to you and talks about God's multiple wills. Well, he's got a secret will, and he's got a revealed will, and he's got a permissive will, and a decretive will, and all these different kinds of wills. He's in one mind, and that one mind has one will. And who can turn him? No one. Why, you got 1,000,000 people out there praying for rain. You got 1,000,001 praying for it not to rain. Who does he listen to? The majority? He don't listen to either one of them. He does what he pleases. If he decides it's best to send rain, it's going to rain. No. What we got here is God saying, I never commanded you to practice this wickedness, this type of sacrifice. I gave you the laws. It's got nothing to do with predestination. It's got nothing to do with the decree. It's got nothing to do even with foreknowledge or knowledge. It's got to do with what God commanded these Israelites in the law. He said, I didn't command you to do this. Where'd you get this notion? As if he needed information, but he didn't. He knew where they got it. The corruptness of the priests, the corruptness of the kings and the rulers. The leaders of my people have caused them to err. Isn't that the truth? That's right. No, that's all he's saying. That's all this means. Let's not read into this more than what it says, but let's read into it everything it does say. That's right. The greatest sin ever committed was predestinated. Was according to the determinate counsel. You want to know about God's counsel? It's determinate. Not like our counsels. Our counsels, we sit around trying to figure out what to do. God's counsel is determinate. Boom, it's done. It's determined. It's fixed. It's set. And foreknowledge. Notice which came first, the determinate counsel, not the foreknowledge. And I realize there's a connective conjunction there that could go, you could reverse them without it doing violence to the text, but it didn't. And even though I don't believe the King James Version was inspired, I believe every word was predestinated by Almighty God and is there for a reason. Even the errors. God knows all. He saw all because he determined all of it. He didn't look ahead in his foreknowledge to get information. He looked ahead, as it were, to visualize the outcome of what he'd already decreed. Not the outcome was decreed. He's looking to see his decree as it went forth. My goodness gracious, that should be obvious to anyone. But if somebody refuses to accept it, say, well, if God foresaw what these evil men would do, could they have changed it? And if he didn't want it to happen, why didn't he just strike them down before they could commit these evil acts? Amazing, isn't it? The mind of man. Get them coming and going. If they want foreknowledge, show them how they have to have predestination going before it. Or else their foreknowledge must be as certain as if it was absolutely predestinated. Or else God's foreknowledge means nothing. If man can do something to change what God has foreseen, foreknown, etc., is prescient of, if man can change it, then God didn't really know it, did he? People don't think before they speak. They don't think enough, do they? Look, God changes not. He said that, didn't he? I am Jehovah, I am Yahweh. I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. Think about this with me. Known unto God are all his works from the beginning of the world. God knew he was going to condemn them. God knew he was going to send evil on him, didn't he? My. And you trying to tell me he didn't know about their sin and that sin wasn't predestinated? You see how many scriptures the Arminians among us must contradict in order to bring their free will notions to the fore? It's just crazy, isn't it? When you think about it. That a man claiming to be a Baptist, a man claiming to be a primitive Baptist to the old school, could contradict so many plain scriptures in order to bring free will in. But that's what they want to do, because they are closeted Arminians. Now listen to me. And this is going to sound awful. It's going to sound hard. It's going to sound harsh. It's going to sound uncharitable. And it may be, and I'm sorry if it is, but if y'all want to fellowship that, do it. Just don't ask me to. Don't ask me to. Couple of little anecdotes before we wind this up. Had a friend that was associated peripherally with the Black Primitive Baptist in Arkansas, North Little Rock, that were a part of the original Pine Light Association. And man, that was an association. I mean, it swept down from Chicago or Detroit, I don't remember which, all the way down through Arkansas into Louisiana, if I remember right. I mean, it just cut a swath across the center of the country. And the old preacher there, that had been there for a long time, was complaining to him one day that some of these new, younger preachers was bringing in something they'd never heard before. You know what it was? Conditionalism. This time salvation nonsense that denies predestination and affirms free will. That was in the 70s. Them brethren had been absoluters all that time, but finally the enemy got his little inroads in with the younger ones. We had some black primitive Baptists used to come to Welsh Tract, Philadelphia, Trenton area, Trenton, New Jersey, across the river there. Absoluters, man to the hilt, precious brethren. Last time I remember the old elder being there, it was on the fourth Sunday, my appointment. He had a young elder with him from North Carolina. Had been visiting up among their churches. And when the service was over, he come to me, and we was standing out there in the graveyard talking. And he said, I want brother so-and-so to come here and hear the truth. I think he's a little soft. And he was lamenting the fact, this would have been in the 80s, that some of them down south was getting a little soft. It took a while, 50, 60 years, for the enemy to make inroads amongst those people in that regard. They were blessed to stand firm for a long time. I hope they're still standing. I know some of them are if they're still alive. Elder Rowley, I know is. He was youngest of that bunch at the time, least of the elders. Not of the members, but of the elders. Well, do you see this in context? Do you see it can't mean that God did think of the act, but rather he's talking about the command, that he didn't command them to do this. Therefore, he's going to judge them for it. Oh, yeah. And if that had never entered into his mind as the action itself, how did he know about it to judge them for it? People come up with this mess, and I'll tell you what it is, it's a carnal mind. They don't want God to have anything to do with evil. No, you can't do that. Push it away from him. He's going to send evil on them. Like I said yesterday, somebody might say, oh, that's just judgment and judicial, just a way of saying it. You go through it, see if it ain't evil. I form the light, and I create darkness. I make peace, and I create evil. I, the Lord, Yahweh, do all these things. He doeth his will among the armies of heaven, in the armies of heaven, and among the inhabitants of the earth. And what did it say? None can stay his hand, nor say unto him, what doest thou? Lord, if you predestinated all this and then judge them for it, you can't do that. Why can't I? Who are you, old man? None can stay his hand. None can say unto him, what doest thou? I'll tell you what, there's a lot of them that want to, though, isn't there? There's a lot of them that would bring God before their judgment bar and say, you can't do that like this. And God says, why can't I? And they say, well, you just can't. It's not fair. Who are you to decide what's fair, old man? You got your thumb on the scales. You got a false balance. You gonna weigh it? Oh no. Oh no. Your scales are tilted. Ain't gonna happen. Well, brethren, I'm gonna hush. The subject's deep. The subject requires thought. And I hope you'll give it. I don't want you to not give thought to this. I'm serious. Because if I'm in error, I need to know. So I want you to think about these things that we talk about every morning. I set them forth as I believe the Lord gives them to me. But not to satisfy the idle curiosity and whims of the world, but to give the saints of God hopefully food by the Spirit, and hopefully something to meditate on, consider, think about. Oh my goodness. Hope it's nothing too serious, brother. But know this. The Lord is your healer. The great physician cures the spiritual malady in the saints of God. But if it be His will, He can also cure the physical maladies in the saints of God. Bless His heart. Lord willing, brother, Lord willing, we'll be blessed to pray with you on this matter. Yeah, generally when they want you to come back and talk to a doctor, it ain't the best news in the world. Y'all talk a minute if you want to. Give yourself any questions or comments as the Lord would see fit to lay on your heart. Lord willing, I'll be right back. Just hang loose a second. don't puke on me. Come on, get up here on the back. Get up here. Come on, Daddy needs to sit. Good girl. Oh. Okay. Well, Lord, you're gonna find another relative here, Brother Hoyt, Brother Chris. Oh, bless your heart there, Brother Rich. Bless your heart. I think everybody, till they consider the context, can have trouble with that verse. But when the Lord's pleased to open the text in not, how do I want to say this, brethren? Let's just say in its context. Ah, goodness. Then it becomes clearer. Contextual study. I'm going to say this, and I might be wrong, and I know I'm guilty of not doing it, but I still try. Don't study in less than a paragraph. Well, my Bible's laid out in verses. I don't know where the paragraphs are. Sure you do. That little paragraph symbol that some King James versions have. Others of them use a word in all caps to define the paragraph. Some use paragraph symbol. And, of course, you can get them laid out in paragraphs. I try not to study in less than a paragraph. Now, the Lord bring a verse to your mind. Goodness gracious. Goodness gracious. Study that verse. Goodness gracious. In 2010, I asked Brother Poole about that. Well, he and I discussed that verse some. I'll bet you it would be similar. I'd hope it would be. I'd hope that I'd agree with him on that, and he'd agree with me. There was very little Brother Poole and I disagreed on. I can think of two texts. And that's all. That I can think of anyway. I'm not going to tell anybody what they are. If it ever comes up and we discuss those texts, then I'll mention it. But until then, no, I'm not even going to mention what they were. But they were only put your tail down, Kissy. Nobody wants to look at your pretty tail. Oh, mercy. Don't bite Daddy. Daddy's fingers aren't your bone to chew on. If you've seen one sparks, you've seen them all. Well, now we had some Sparkses back in Oklahoma. I went to school with some Sparkses. With some Sparks. Hooley Sparks was bus driver for the school system when I was a kid. I didn't ride the bus, lived in town. Most of these Sparkses were part Indian. I shouldn't need to say that. Anybody that whose roots are in eastern Oklahoma before Oklahoma became a state, 1907, is probably part Indian. I remember. Was it Hooley Sparks? Seems like it was Hooley Sparks when he died. A buddy of mine, his mama was a cousin to them Sparks. And so, in traditional fashion, she was sending over a casserole for them to eat. And she had my buddy. Had her son, my friend, take it over there to him. So he did, came to the door and said, Mama sent this casserole over and, we sure are sorry about the death and all. And they said, well, do you want to see Hooley? They had the body dressed up, sitting at the head of the table in the dining room. Didn't leave him at the funeral home. Brought him home. It kind of freaked him out to see him there. Oh, mercy. I think it kind of freaked me out too at the time. Kissy, you don't drink V8. Daddy likes his V8. Many of y'all don't know it, but I'm a vegetarian. I'd encourage any of you who have thought about giving up factory farmed meat to do it. And that includes factory farmed fish. Only wild caught. If you got a source for organic meat, chickens raised without, and cows, hogs raised without antibiotics, drugs, things like that, but by all means, eat them. I mean, I'm not opposed to you. But right now, I'm convinced that farming system that we have, the big farms, big ag, ConAgra, and all that mess, killing us. And so I've cut it out. I've lost weight. And you may not think so, but I really do feel better. Take last night, I had green beans and a sweet potato. Had some stomach trouble yesterday, so I didn't eat no corn. I wanted some corn, but I didn't eat any. Didn't eat any Irish potatoes either. V8's good. I drink the low sodium. When I think of it, get them at Big Lots. Pretty cheap. I'm not a vegan. I am lacto-ovarian. I do eggs and milk, dairy, etc. Oh, goodness gracious. It's all right, Kissy. Goodness gracious. You know Daddy brushes you. Well, brethren, I'm going to the Lord willing. I'm going to the Mason-Dixon Civil War Roundtable tonight. Discussion group. Civil War roundtables are. They're going to have a presentation on the war between the states and the Indian Territory, and I want to go because my great-great-grandfather served in the Cherokee Mounted Rifles. His brother was a lieutenant. He was a private. Fought the entire war with Stand Watie. Probably originally called Watee, but we say Watie now. Excuse me. Hello. Yes. Correct. Thank you very much. All right. You too. Bye bye. Well, my little baby did good. My little baby. That little baby. Did good. She went through her spay with no problem and hopefully tame her up and get her adopted out to anyone. Anybody want a cat? She's pretty. I don't know that I could give up my kissy. I guess I could if anybody wants her. You want me to bring her to you? You gotta keep her inside. She ain't no outside cat. You gotta let her sit on your shoulder and pet her and Tell her how pretty she is. As if she didn't know how pretty she was. Well, brethren, it's time. Bow with me. Lord, show us thy glory and thy majesty. Show us that thou art the one that declared the end from the beginning. Show us that thy counsel stands. And that it's good. And Lord, more than that, reconcile us to the goodness of thy counsel. Lord, there are so many scriptures that we look at. Rejoice. In everything give thanks. I've learned in whatsoever state I'm in therewith to be content. Give us a contentment of heart. Give us an ease of soul. And give us that quiet acquiescence that thy will is right, and we can rejoice in it. Hold us in the palm of thy hand and comfort us in the midst of the storm. Let us not be like thy disciples and toil and row till our strength is gone. Cause us to see that thou must calm the storm, and that our rowing, oh, no galley with oars shall be there, that our rowing is but the rowing of the works of the flesh. Keep us, strengthen us, cause us to stand in thy glory, in thy grace, and by thy mercy. For it's in the name of the Lord Jesus we ask. Amen. Well, brethren, Lord willing, should be on time tomorrow if the Lord wills, because, like I say, that was the last of the feral kittens to go to the vet. Got her trapped this morning. Bless our hearts. I thank you for being here, and I thank you for your attention. I thank you for your comments and questions. May the Lord richly bless you, and I hope to see you tomorrow.